Kira was a little girl with big, curious eyes. She was only 6 years old, but she was not afraid of anything. She loved the woods behind her house more than any playground. The tall trees were her friends, and the rustling leaves told her secrets. Every afternoon she would sneak out to her special kingdom of green and brown. Her parents told her to stay close to home, to not wander too far, but the woods always seemed to call her name, pulling her deeper into its cool, dark embrace. She would spend hours there, collecting smooth stones and strange twisted sticks, feeling perfectly safe and completely alone. She had a favorite spot, a small clearing where the sunlight streamed down through the thick canopy of leaves. It was a magical place, like a secret room just for her. There she would talk to the squirrels and the birds, imagining they were her loyal subjects. She wore a bright yellow dress that made her look like a little daffodil against the dark earth. Her hair was the color of honey, and it bounced as she skipped along the winding paths. Kira believed the woods were alive, a gentle giant that watched over her while she played her lonely games, never once feeling the chill of fear. One afternoon, the sky turned a strange shade of gray. A storm was coming, but Kira didn't notice. She was too busy building a tiny castle out of moss and twigs for the fairy queen she was sure lived nearby. The wind began to howl through the trees, making them groan and sway like tired old men. The familiar rustle of leaves turned into a hiss. A sudden sharp crack echoed through the forest, loud as a cannon shot. A heavy branch, weakened by age and pushed by the fierce wind, broke free from a giant oak tree. It fell silently, swiftly, towards the little girl in the yellow dress. Kira never saw it coming. She was looking down at her castle, a proud smile on her face. The world went dark in an instant. There was no pain, no scream, just a sudden, deep silence that swallowed everything. The woods, her beloved playground, had taken her away. The rain began to fall, washing over the clearing, an apology of tears from the sky. Her little body lay still, the yellow of her dress a stark contrast to the darkening forest floor. The world had lost a little bit of its sunshine that day, and the woods held a new, sad secret within its heart. Kira opened her eyes, but she wasn't really seeing. She was floating, just a whisper above the ground. The storm had passed, and the sun was setting, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. She looked down and saw herself, still lying beneath the fallen branch. It was a strange sight, like looking at a doll that looked just like her. She didn't feel sad or scared. She just felt empty. She was a ghost now, tied to the place where her short life had ended. She was an echo in the woods she had loved so much. She looked exactly as she had in life. Her yellow dress was still bright, untouched by the dirt and rain. Her honey-colored hair still framed her pale face. But something was different. Right in the center of her forehead was a small, dark hole. It was a perfect circle, no bigger than a dime, a mysterious mark left by her sudden departure. It didn't bleed or hurt. It was just there, a strange, silent testament to what had happened. This tiny, unnatural mark made her ghost seem even more out of place, a puzzle that didn't belong in the natural world. Kira began to wander. She wasn't walking, she was drifting. She floated through the trees, her feet never touching the fallen leaves. She visited all her favorite places, the babbling brook where she sailed leaf boats, the big flat rock where she would lie and watch the clouds, the hollow log that she pretended was her secret hideout. Everything was the same, yet everything was different. The woods no longer felt warm and welcoming. They felt cold, and she was the source of the chill, a lonely spirit haunting her own memories. Days turned into nights, and nights turned back into days. Kira didn't notice the time passing. She was stuck in a loop, forever playing in her forest playground. Sometimes hikers would walk the trails, and a sudden cold spot would make them shiver. They would hear a faint giggle on the wind and think it was just a bird. They never saw the little girl in the yellow dress watching them from behind a tree. She was invisible to them, a forgotten story, a sad little secret kept by the whispering woods. But someone else saw her. Someone who did not belong to the world of the living or the world of the dead. He was a creature of the deep woods, a legend whispered by frightened children around campfires. He was tall, unnaturally tall, like a tree that had learned to walk. He wore a neat black suit that seemed to absorb the shadows around him. He had no face, no eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just a blank white expanse where a face should be. His name was Slenderman, and the darkest parts of the forest were his home. Slenderman had noticed the change in the woods. He had felt the new sadness, the cold echo of a life cut short. He was drawn to it. He moved through the trees without a sound, his long, spindly limbs carrying him closer to the source of the disturbance. He found Kira in her clearing, floating near the old oak tree. He watched her for a long time, a silent, faceless statue hidden in the gloom. Most spirits faded away, their energy scattering into nothing. But this one was different. This one was strong. This one was pure. It was her innocence that held him there. She was a child, untainted by the bitterness and anger that clung to most ghosts. She was just a pure, sad memory. And then he saw the hole, the small, dark circle on her forehead. It was a void, a tiny window into nothingness. It fascinated the faceless creature. It was a mark of something special, something broken in a way that he understood. It was a flaw, an imperfection that called to the darkness within him. He felt a strange connection to this little lost soul. The woods grew tense with his presence. The air became heavy, thick with a feeling of dread. The birds stopped singing when he was near. The squirrels scurried into their nests and did not come out. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath. Kira, lost in her own lonely world, did not notice him at first, but she felt the change. The familiar comfort of her woods was gone, replaced by a deep and unsettling quiet. It was a silence that felt like it was watching her, waiting for something to happen. Slowly, Kira became aware of the new presence. It was a feeling she couldn't explain. It was like the feeling of being stared at, but 100 times stronger. She stopped her drifting and turned her head, her big, empty eyes scanning the deep shadows between the trees. She couldn't see anything, but she knew she wasn't alone anymore. A new kind of fear, a cold and primal fear she had never known in life, began to creep into her ghostly heart. The woods were no longer just her playground. They were his hunting ground. Slenderman took a step forward, emerging from the cover of the trees. He didn't walk like a person. He glided, his movements unnaturally smooth. He was a living nightmare standing in the pale moonlight. He tilted his blank head, focusing on the little ghost. He felt no pity, no sadness for her. He only felt a strange sense of ownership, a desire to claim this unique little spirit for his own collection. He saw her not as a lost child, but as a rare and interesting prize. He raised one of his long, slender arms. His fingers, like the pale branches of a dead tree, extended towards her. It was not a threat, not yet. It was an invitation. An invitation into his world of shadows and silence, a world from which there was no escape. He wanted to see what would happen if he touched the little hole on her forehead. He wondered if he could pull her from this world entirely into his own dark reality. He was a collector of strange things, and Kira was the strangest thing he had seen in a very long time. Kira stared at the outstretched hand. She should have been terrified. She should have fled, disappearing back into the mists of the forest. But she didn't. She was a lonely little girl, and this was the first time anyone had truly seen her since she had died. Part of her was horrified, but another part, a small, curious part, was drawn to the silent, faceless figure. What would happen next? Would she run, or would she take the hand of the monster in the woods? The forest held its breath, and the haunting tale of Kira was left hanging in the chilling, silent air.